Hello again, everybody. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Warrior FastBreak show here on HBC TV 25. I'm Justin Barrientos. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona. Thank you for joining us. And we're here with head coach Todd Eisner of Warrior men's basketball. Successful weekend for you to close out the regular season. I know you needed at least one win in order to lock down a home playoff spot, but you get two against Concordia St. Paul and Minnesota State Mankato. How did the weekend go for you?
Obviously, really pleased. I'm not sure we played great basketball, but we played really hard. I liked our effort. I liked our toughness level, both mentally and physically, both nights, and it was good to see. We started out in league play 0-3 on the road and finished 6-5. So to win 6 of our last 8 games in league play on the road, I think is pointing us in the right direction, and now it's win or go home type of season, and we're getting ready for Wednesday.
All right, let's take a look back before we get to Wednesday and talk about Concordia St. Paul. It was a 74-60 win. You had your points again from Kevion Taylor and Caleb Wagner, but Andrea Lobiando had a pretty good game as well. And just what happened during that game? I mean, it was. I think you were down in that game, and then you got a couple of 3-pointers, and then you really started to hit from the arc, and then were able to come back in that game.
I think it was a pretty methodical game. It wasn't, it wasn't something that we had a 20-point lead, or we just pieced together, 2 pretty solid halves. Obviously, Kevion and Caleb have a huge burden on them for 28 games, and we've relied on them to play at a really high level. And I thought in the second half they both really stepped up and made sure that Concordia St. Paul didn't get any type of momentum or any type of confidence going. I thought defensively, when you only give up 60 points in a game, you're doing a lot of really good things. We did a nice job on Higgins for the most part and made him earn his points. Koblen's their leading scorer, and Dev did a great job on him. And Max Keefe had been averaging about 15 points a game over the previous 5 games, and we held him to 8 points. So I was really pleased defensively with our intensity level, our toughness level, and then offensively we did enough to separate ourselves and put us in a position to get the win.
And then one of the other kind of hallmarks of your team this year is you take care of the basketball, but you also force the other team into turnovers, and that's what happened against Concordia.
Yeah, and at the first half I think we had 5 turnovers, and we finished with 7 if I'm remembering correctly.
That's
and
right.
Like I said, at the end of the day, when you've got Devin running the show, and then Caleb really is a point guard that we throw off the ball, but put the ball in his hands a bunch. So we've got 2 guys that are as good with securing the basketball as anybody in our league, and that puts us in a position where we don't waste a lot of possessions in terms of not getting shots.
Mm-hmm. And then you throw out the record books. That's the kind of the cliche that we always use when you talk about Minnesota State Mankato. Tell us a little bit about that game.
Well, it was interesting. We, the game had a lot of similarities to our game at home against Sioux Falls, in that we couldn't buy a basket to start the game. I think we started out 1 for 21 maybe, or something like that, and 0 for 11 from the 3, and really struggled to score points. And guys were hanging their heads, and it looked very similar to some of the other games where if you don't make shots, you start to let the rest of the game get affected mentally, and really tried to talk to our guys even during the first half timeouts, but in particular at halftime, about just staying true to who we are, staying really confident in what you do well. And we shoot a ton of shots every single day in practice, and then our guys do a lot in the off season. There's no reason to doubt that a shot's not going to go in, and so it was really a tale of 2 halves. We came out second half, didn't guard great, but played hard and forced a few turnovers that were key late in the game, and then shot the ball really, really well. Kev made some big ones, Caleb made some big ones, and then Andrea stepped up and I think had 5 threes in the second half, if I'm not mistaken, and 6 for the game. And Caleb really did a great job of dragging Dre's man away from him and then feeding Dre out at the 3-point line. And anytime you can come back and get a game at Mankato, you feel pretty good about it.
You kind of answered the question as I'm thinking about it, as you're talking about the droughts and what happens, but we kind of want to get an insight into your mind. Do you feel that the best way to get out of a drought is to keep shooting until you make it?
Well, we don't have a choice. I mean, it's not like our plan B is to throw the ball inside and then we've got a really high-level post game. So, we're going to live by it and we're going to die by it. And thankfully, through the course of 28 games so far, we haven't had many days where we've suffered because we don't shoot it great. I think now we made 12 threes on Saturday night, and it wasn't a great percentage. I think we were 12 of 34, but I think we're now, it's 10-2 in league play when we make 12 threes or more. And so that's always kind of a target, and I think we're 10-1 or 10-2 when we shoot 40% from the three in league games. So, those are just kind of the two things. We haven't shot the ball from the three as well the last 2 weekends. We need to get that amp back up. I mean, 33 to 35% is not good enough, but with the volume that we shoot, you're still getting to 10, 11, 12, 13 threes made in the game, and that will always be beneficial to us.
All right, let's talk a little bit then now about the playoffs that come up on Wednesday. It's a short turnaround for your guys. You already had a big road trip and 2 big games on the weekend. How do you get ready for that? What does practice look like the first couple days here?
Yeah, we've met with the guys this morning for film on Crookston, and we'll lift at 2:15 today, and then get back out on the court at 4, and we got to go after it. Monday's been kind of a second off day for us here the second semester, just because we're using so few players and wanted to give our guys plenty of rest. But we've got to do some things today. We won't go real long, but we got to get them back into the mindset of how we need to guard Crookston. We did a great job against them the first time, but the coach's paranoia comes out, and that 2 years ago we had a nice team and beat Duluth pretty handily in the regular season, and then they came here and hit a bunch of threes and sent us home, and then Crookston's got the X factor in that they've got the NSIC's all-time leading scorer, and he can legitimately get 50 on any particular night, and and then the other part of it is Crookston went down to Augie last year in the first round of the NSIC tournament, went 18 of 26 from the three and packed up Augie. So we just got to continue to play the way we've been playing. We got to guard at a high level. We got to defend as a group, and Caleb will get the assignment on Harrison, and he's going to make some shots. I mean, he's going to make some shots where you're all over him, and we just got to make the game hard on him, and then not allow others to have a great night because of what Harrison does. And if we do that, then I like our chances.
Perfect.
Perfect. Perfect.
Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style at Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-6030.
And welcome back to Warriors Fast Break here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona. Brandon Goebel joins us. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, before we get to the story of how you get on the basketball team, I want to go back to your high school days. St. Clair High School, you're a 1,000-point scorer. You get recruited by some D3 teams. Tell us a little bit about kind of your history in basketball.
I grew up playing. I always have. High school, like you said, I was a 1,000-point scorer. We went to state my senior year. It did not go as well as it could have, obviously. But, I had some schools looking at me, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I got sick at the end of my senior year. That kind of put a damper on even trying to go somewhere. Eventually, I just decided to go to Winona State just for school because I wanted to be a teacher, and they have a good teaching program. So I came here. I saw a sign actually my first year here, just looking for a manager, and I thought, why not? I still want to be involved in basketball, and so I just worked my health back. I guess it took a while to get my health back. I came in not in great shape and whatnot, but so it took a few years. I always wanted to try, I guess, not necessarily even here, but try to, even if I had to transfer out and go somewhere to play, I would have maybe done that. But at this point, I was my 4th year now. I figured if I want to try, I'll try here, not transfer out at this point, because I don't think a lot of my credits wouldn't transfer, and just so I decided to stay here and talk to the coach, I guess.
All right, so let's talk about your time as team manager then. So you see this flyer, you get with the team as the manager. What are your responsibilities? What are you doing?
I guess my responsibilities are just helping during practice, if any drills that they need help in, bringing balls up. My first year here, I put some letters into envelopes for our other grad assistant. What else did I do? Yeah, mostly just a lot of it involved around practice, just doing anything I was asked to do in practice, running the scoreboard, the clock, really anything that was needed.
And then from what I understand, just last year was your first year that you were able to sit on the bench during games, is that correct?
No, I've always sat on the bench.
Okay. So then tell me how it comes about that you go from team manager then to actually being on the team.
I don't really know. Like I said, I've always been thinking about it. I didn't want to and for sure I didn't want to regret it. I'm not trying. So I just decided that I kept working all these last 3 years. I always was in gym shooting and whatnot. and I just figured I may as well ask and see where it goes, and here I am now, I guess.
So you play intramurals, you kind of do all that kind of thing to keep
I was playing
yourself-
intramurals, yes, for sure.
Okay, so Coach, what did you see in Brandon, and how did it come about that he goes from team manager to actually being on the team?
Well, he's always had a great spirit. You know, you could tell that being a part of our program was important to him. And even as, you know, I don't like putting titles or labels necessarily on people. He was part of our program, but yet during games he was as loud as anybody on the bench. And so, you know, I certainly appreciated prior to him being on our team as a player, just the spirit he brought. And there were so many times over the last 2 years prior to this year that I would come to the gym, whether it be late at night, come to my office, whether it be late at night or on a weekend, and I'm walking down the hallway and I can hear a ball bouncing, I can hear the gun being used in the gym, and I'm like, I'm pumped up that one of our guys has come in to get more shots up, and I'd look in the gym and there's Brandon on the gun. And I wasn't disappointed, but I'm like, it should have been one of our players, and here's Brandon working on his game.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, I make fun of him, but is a great thing, he's in the weight room all the time. And so in the last probably 15 to 18 months, he you know, whether it was with a plan of hoping to be on the team or just to, you know, get himself in better shape, like you said, with his health being better, he's always in the weight room. So Brandon's work ethic is tremendous. And that's what you really want out of somebody that wants an opportunity to be on the team is, are they going to work hard? Are they going to be a great teammate? And then whatever happens after that, some of them develop into great players. Some of them, their role ends up being, they end up being a practice player who brings great spirit to the team. And everybody has a different path, but their importance to what we're doing has the same level of value. And Brandon's value to our team is really, really important.
All right, so then when you sign on this season, from what I understand, you kind of understood, hey, I'm not going to play a whole lot, but when I get out there, I'm going to give it my all, I'm going to do that. So talk about your minutes this season. I mean, I think you've been in 5 or 7 games, something like that. What's it like when you're actually out on the court?
I mean, it's surreal, I guess. Just like growing up watching basketball and college basketball, especially, I've never really thought of playing at Division II level, even if it is for those short minutes. It's still amazing to just be out there and just, I don't know. I mean, the crowds aren't as huge as obviously Division I and whatnot, but it's still just good to be out there and just the feeling of being out there and checking into a game after being out of basketball for 3 years. That first time it was crazy.
All right, Minnesota Duluth. I think it was January 31st. You get in the game and you score your first collegiate points. Tell us what happened in that game.
I mean, I think I set a screen. I don't remember what I did. I set a screen. Just Nick always drives, so I just spaced out. He passed me. I had it in my head that I was probably going to shoot it if I even had a little bit of space. And he passed me. I shot it, and it went in. I mean, that's all there is to it, I guess.
All right, and the reaction from the rest of the team?
Well, I think that's where Brandon's, you know, you can see how important he is to our team, you know, because our guys were so excited that Brandon got rewarded for all of his hard work by getting into the game and then getting to be able to tee up a shot and knock it down. And Brandon, you know, like I said, he's always in on the gun, always shooting. He's been doing it since he's been here. So it's really not a surprise that he made it, but you could tell how happy his teammates were for him because that happened.
All right, so you're listed as a junior. So are you a junior academically, or do you have eligibility? Are you coming back next year?
I am a senior academically,
Okay.
but I have a 5th year, so I will be back next year. That's the plan.
Very good. So what do you do now between the end of this season and next season to get ready for next year?
A lot. My conditioning, for sure. I came in, I had an idea because I always went to like the spring, like previous years just watching them, but it's different and my body was not ready, I guess, ready for it, you could say. Like my body broke down easily. So I'm hoping that I can have a better summer this year, knowing that it needs to be a lot better, just so spring workouts go better and everything else goes better.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style. At Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-60.
And welcome back to Warriors Fast Break here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona. We'll talk women's basketball now with head coach Scott Ballard. And kind of an interesting weekend. It was a tough weekend on the floor with a couple of losses, but you were able to get that home playoff game. So I guess that's the shining light from the weekend.
Well, you know, it's like I told you off air.
we accomplished what we set out to accomplish, but we didn't do it the way that we had intended. The South Division is really, really strong and balanced this year. 7 of the 8 teams won 15 or more games. I've never seen it like that. There's been lopsided games. There's been, a lot of close games. There's been teams that found ways to win on the road and others that, did a better job at home. But, it was all said and done. We finished in a 3-way tie for third with Concordia and Augie. We lost both of those tiebreakers to them, but then when we ended up with the 5 seed and had to play the 4 seed in the North Division, which was Moorhead, we both had the same conference record, but because we had won at their place during the regular season, that gave us a tiebreaker over them and an opportunity to host. So doesn't guarantee a win, it just guarantees that we get to sleep in our own bed, we don't have to travel. But they're still number one defensive team and number 1 rebounding team in the league, and we always tell our group, teams that can really defend and really rebound, they're really hard to beat. I know that they were picked to win the league in the preseason, so they've lost some close games, and they haven't finished where they had hoped to. But this is a brand new season for everybody, and they certainly are good enough to win the tournament if they get hot. But I would rather play them here than play them at their place again.
All right, well, we will have that game for you here on HBC, so happy that we're able to cover you guys one
Right.
more time. Let's go back to this past weekend and talk about the games at Concordia St. Paul and at Minnesota State Mankato, and some shooting problems in both those games.
Well, part of that you've got to, give credit to the defense. The Concordia game, we played really well defensively for 2.5, 3 quarters. Emma, unfortunately, was in really early foul trouble the entire first half. I think she only played 3 minutes. So that makes it a little more difficult for us to score. We still were up 1 at halftime. Then what happened in the second half is that we didn't shoot the ball well, and they started trying to pound the ball inside. They got a few 3 or 4 scores in there in the third quarter, and then they had a couple kids that made some really difficult challenge 15-foot jumpers with hand in their face. So at the end of the third quarter, we were down 4, so the game is still within reach. But in the fourth quarter, I think we went 1 for 10. I think we had 7 turnovers. I didn't agree with some of the things that were being called, but there's nothing you can do about it. We did not get a break in the fourth quarter, and we didn't shoot well enough to make up for some things that went against us. But they started hurting us more on the boards and inside as the game went along. And then the last couple minutes, you're down 10 inside the 3-minute mark, and you got to start gambling and trapping. And then, then they got 2 or 3 threes on us in the fourth quarter, which just put it out of reach. But that was a frustrating game because defensively we played really well for 30, 35 minutes. But offensively, we didn't shoot well. We struggled to score, and the game got out of reach in the fourth quarter. And then Saturday against Mankato, who's playing probably their best ball of the year right now, we don't match up well with them physically, and we had some issues with that against Concordia also. But probably the most frustrating thing about the Mankato game is that we only had 14 turnovers. I mean, they've been turning people over 25 times a game. The night before, Upper Iowa had 31 turnovers. But we only had 14 turnovers. We had to take a lot of shots out of the lane. We did not shoot well at all in the first half from downtown or three-point line, and found ourselves down 20 at halftime or something like that. We played better, shot better in the second half, but You know, we started having breakdowns, transition defense. We started having breakdowns, and we just didn't play well enough in any phase of the game to make up for some deficiencies that we had, and that became frustrating. In the fourth quarter, you know, I mean, we're still down 20 going to the fourth quarter, and so we basically just played our young kids almost the entire fourth quarter. Let them get some experiences, get something out of it, protect our people that we play most minutes, and protect them from, injuries or whatever, and get ready for the playoffs, which start on Wednesday.
Right. So we got about 2 minutes left in this segment. Now, with the quick turnaround going from Saturday to a Wednesday game, what do you do in those couple of days? Do you try to fix what you saw on the weekend, or do you focus mainly on what you think the opponent is going to do?
Well, it's a combination of both. It really is. We usually go light on Mondays the last 3 or 4 weeks because it's late in the season. You want to save their legs. You do a lot of watching film, lift in the morning, and then not go quite as long on Monday and pretty much stick to half-court stuff, save their legs a little bit. But so we did that stuff yesterday, a lot of half-court stuff and film watching. But it's all about preparing for your next opponent, which is Moorhead, and trying to do some things better offensively and defensively than in the first meeting. They're going to be doing the same thing. And that first time that we played them, Taylor Husted, she was in terrible foul trouble. She only played 18, 19 minutes the entire game, and that was an overtime game. So we had to play a lot of the game without her. Emma had her best game of the year, so I'm sure that they will try to, neutralize that a little bit. But we just have to be more consistent. I mean, we've been saying that all year. And it's not just on offense. It's on the defense and rebounding into things, and it's transition defense. So it's not like one thing that we're struggling with consistency-wise that causes us, to fall short. It varies from, one phase of the game to another. A lot of that is immaturity. A lot of that is lack of experience. And then I think part of it is also that when people get behind or things aren't going the way that they want, they have a tendency to do one of two things. They either try to do too much and start forcing things, which are counterproductive, or they get hesitant. And so it's a fine line, a balance there that you have to have. And part of it is confidence and mental toughness and experience and understanding adjustments that you're trying to make. And the only way you get that is going through it. And so we've been through a variety of experiences this year. It's been a very interesting season. And now I hope that we can, rely on those experiences to play really well from this point forward. Because now you're at a point where you get hot in a week, you get hot for a week, and, some special things can happen.
Perfect. Perfect.
Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style at Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-6030.
And welcome back to the Warriors Fast Break Show here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Cost Cutters of Winona. Emily Keek joins us. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you heard what Coach said about trying to fix inconsistencies, and you as the point guard maybe kind of leads the way in that. Can you talk about what he talked about trying to overcompensate and trying to do too much or not do enough, and how that kind of relates to you as a point guard?
I think one thing that we have been inconsistent with is controlling what we can control. Like Coach talked about, the refs on this weekend weren't too in our favor, so we can't get too bitter about that. We just have to keep going about what we can do and just disregard the refs. So.
Okay. Now, one of the things you talked about when you were on the show earlier this season was it was your personal goal to lead the NSIC in assist to turnover ratio.
Yep.
Well, you're currently tied, maybe second place in that.
Yeah.
So kind of mission accomplished for you. What kind of led you to leading the league in assist to turnover ratio?
Well, first, my assists, I wouldn't get them without my teammates hitting the shots. So I thank them for that. And turning over the ball for me, I take it very personal when I do. I get very frustrated. But I just try to balance it out. Like Coach Wirtz told me 3-1 is my goal. And I think I got like 2 or something like that. So a little under. But I try to think during the game like, oh, I have a turnover right now. Like I have to get it back. Like I have to take care of the ball. I have to get my teammates their shots too. So.
Okay, this might be a question for both of you. As we've watched you throughout the season, one of the things that's been interesting to me in how you've been playing is that you're driving a lot underneath and then distributing the ball from underneath the basket back up top.
Yeah.
I kind of called it reverse point guard, I guess. Can you talk about that and how your style of play is to drive and then distribute?
Well, I mean, that is something that we work on all the time, because some teams, they want to force baseline, and then in transition, sometimes there's more opportunities to drive baseline than middle. So it varies from team to team with regards to what their defensive scheme is, and it's kind of a counter to whatever they're trying to take away. So we work a lot on baseline drives with her and making a drift pass to somebody in the corner, or having somebody cut from the perimeter. We call it the 45 spot or high post area. And, you know, we're getting better at it all the time. But, you know, I mean, majority of teams are try to, I shouldn't say majority, but probably 50% of the teams try to take away middle, and then the other 50% they try to take away baseline. And so it just kind of depends on, you know, who we're playing and what their defensive scheme is. But with Emily, you know, being one of the top assist leaders in the league, it doesn't surprise me at all. What's really improved is her decision making, and it's been kind of a challenge, more of a challenge for her this year, from the standpoint of she's not had as good a year shooting from outside. And so people are now backing off of her, and that's taken away a lot of her, you know, middle drive opportunities that, you know, she probably lived off of a lot her first 2 years. So, you know, that's something that she'll work on in the off season, you know, for next year. But she's been showing signs of hitting that shot with more confidence the last couple weeks.
Let's talk about that. You see defenses backing up. They're kind of daring you to shoot.
Yeah.
You have to make the decision. Am I going to take this shot or am I going to run the offense?
Yeah, so like Coach Wirtz has talked to me about, like, they're going to sag you off, like, so what? Like, let them do that. Like, just attack them no matter what. Like, going baseline, like, using my space to distribute the ball and like, not taking the outside shot because it's not, like, my strongest shot right now. Like, what other shot can we find in the offense that's better? So.
Okay, and then last question, Coach was talking about decision making. What's going through your head as you're coming up the court and getting ready to run the offense?
If we're running transition, it's like, where are my shooters? Are they in the corner where they should be? Or, like, do I have a cutter if I do go baseline? And then in just the motion offense, just finding, like, getting people off screens, like having all our other people set screens, and then getting our shooters off of that, and then getting the ball inside too, letting them go to work down there. So. All
right, very good. Well, good luck this weekend, and hopefully we'll be talking about some wins.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, this is the first time that both teams have hosted the same year, and we're hoping that we're going to have a nice crowd there. Historically, our games with Moorhead, our last 5 games have the average point spread has been 3, and 3 of those 5 games have been in overtime. So we've had some really intense, close games with Moorhead, and I expect that again.
All right, women are on the court at 5:30 on Wednesday. Hopefully you will be there as well. Thank you for joining us here on Warriors Fast Break. We'll see you again here on HBC TV 25.